Okay, today we're going to be working on a 2014. It's a 2014 Audi. It's an A4 Quattro, and we're going to be replacing the front brakes. We're going to be resurfacing these rotors because these rotors are a little bit expensive on this car. So we're going to have the rotors and we're going to resurface them. We're going to put new brake pads on it. Let me grab some tools, and I'm going to get started, and I'll show you exactly what to do step by step. Follow my directions and you're not going to have any problem. It'll go fairly smoothly for you. Alright, so let me grab some tools and let's get started. Okay, let me just walk you through exactly what I'm going to be doing first. We're going to be taking off this bit, right? We're going to unscrew this torx right here. We're going to remove this one so we can take the rotor off the car. We're going to be removing this anti-rattle clip right here. We're going to take that off. I'll show you how to do that. We're going to go down into the back of the car over here. We're going to remove that sensor right here because this is the sensor for the brake indicator. We're going to be removing that sensor also. These brake pads actually come with a new sensor, so we're going to remove it and we're going to discard it. We're going to remove the caliper, which is right here. We're going to take this bolt out right here. There's another one down on the bottom right over here. We're going to take that out also. And then we're going to remove the mounting bracket from the car. And there's a bolt down in the back right over here for the mounting bracket. So let me grab some tools and we're going to get started on this job. First thing you're going to do before you really do anything is you're going to reset this piston back into here. And the way you do it is you pry on the caliper and you pry the piston back into the bore as far as you can get it. This saves you a little bit of time later on. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to be removing that this rattle clip right here. The way you do that, really not that hard. You just get in here with the screwdriver and you pry upward on this slightly, and then you put another screwdriver behind it like this, gently, because you don't want to bend it. And you pry it out like that. And we're going to need to use this over again, so don't lose it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that caliper from the car. We're going to take those little bolts out in the back here that I told you about. Probably going to be a 13 or a 14 millimeter. And just so you know, it is a 13 millimeter. Alright, so we can loosen these up. Both top and bottom, and I'm going to take them out. Obviously we're going to reuse those bolts, so don't lose those. Okay, now the caliper is ready to come off, but before we take that caliper off, remember I talked to you about that sensor in the back right there, right? That sensor we're going to be removing from the car, and the way you do that, let me get a light in here and I'll show you. The way you do that is you get in here with the screwdriver and you pry out. Let me try to do this so you can see. You pry out on the sensor a little bit so that comes out of the hole right there, and then you rotate it down and out like that, and out through the opening, And the next thing we're going to have to do is we have to unplug the sensor from the harness. And the way you do that is you press this little clip in. I'm going to have to put the camera down, but I'm going to show you real quick before I do it. This little clip right here, that clip right there, you push that in, and when you push it in, you pull that sensor right out of there. So let me do that, and I'll show you how that goes. Sometimes you need two hands, sorry about that, but it does unplug right out of there, and it pops right out. All right, I usually get around from this side of the front of the braking system in the front, and you unplug it by just pushing that that clip right down there, two hands, and you just pull it apart. Fairly easy. All right, let's get that caliper off of there, and we're going to continue with this job. Now, one thing you never want to do is you never want to let a caliper hang by itself, because you can damage the brake hoses. So what I always do is hang it by a hanger, just to relocate it out of the way for now. And then we're going to take off that mounting bracket. And remember the bolts in the back we talked about. That's this one right here, this bolt here, and that bolt there. We're going to remove these, and then we're going to take that mounting bracket, this mounting bracket, off of the car so we can get this caliper off. I mean the rotor off. All right. Now, one thing I want you to do before you take the rotor off of the car is I want you to take this out right here. And the reason I want you to do that now is because sometimes you try to take this out, it's a little bit difficult to hold the rotor and turn it. So if you have to, you put a screwdriver in this way here, and it keeps it from rotating. In this case, it didn't have to because it came right out. But just in case the torx is too tight and you can't get it out, you just stick a screwdriver right in here, and when it does turn, it'll turn up and hit right into there and keep it from coming out. All right, next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take that mounting bracket off. They're usually pretty tight, so what I do is I use a breaker bar. Just so you know, it's a 13/16 bolt underneath there. They are usually pretty tight. Once you break it loose with the breaker bar, then you can get in there with a socket, with a regular ratchet, and remove it from the car. And we'll just take the bracket off for now and just relocate that to the side, and the rotor should come right off. If it doesn't come off, you don't have to kill yourself. We're going to need to use this over again, so I don't want to take it falling on the floor. So what we're going to do is get in here with the pry bar behind the rotor and the knuckle, and just get a little bit of a pull. Now, sometimes it comes off, sometimes it takes a little more persuading. If you just keep light pressure on it, and tap on the face of it, it usually comes off. take our bolt out and remove the rotor. Alright, now we're going to get the rotor and going to resurface it. And once I get it resurfaced, I'll come back and I'll show you how to put this job back together. Alright, so let me resurface this and be right back. Okay, now that the rotor is all machined down, we're going to replace it and put it back onto the car so we can start to get this job back together. Alright, what I always do is line the rotor up with the screw, obviously, you took out. I always screw a lug into it, so that way when it goes back together, there is no question that it's going to line up exactly right. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to put that torx screw back into the face of the rotor and tighten that down. Doesn't have to be real tight, just snug. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that mounting bracket and we're going to reattach the mounting bracket onto the car. You have to lubricate wherever the brake pads are going to be touching into, which is right here. So I put a little bit of brake lubricant on here like this. That way the brake pads slide a little bit easier. Alright, then we're going to reattach it to the car and we're going to put the 2 bolts back through the back of it that we previously took off. Always catch it by hand and screw it in as far as you possibly can before you bring a ratchet into it to try to tighten up the rest of the leg. Alright, then we're just going to tighten it up with the ratchet, as tight as we can. Now you can make it as tight as you can with a ratchet. I always like to get in there with the breaker bar just to make sure that it's plenty tight and it's not going to be going anyplace. Okay, that's it. All right, now that we've got that tight, now we're going to remove the brake pads from the caliper, and we're going to put the new pads into it. I usually just lay it up on the top here so I have some place to work with it. And this one here, you can just take a hammer and tap it, and the brake pad usually just pops right out. Use some kind of a glue on these things. I'm going to take the pad. I'm going to take the inner brake pad out, and remember this has the sensor on it. So we're just going to pull it down, and then we're going to unhook the sensor from the back. We're going to unhook the sensor from the back here. And then we'll pull the brake pad out. Alright. And we're going to put the new brake pads in. I'm going to put the sensor back on just as it came out. That's it, sensor's in, and now we're going to put the pad into the caliper. What I always do to make it go in a little bit easier is put a little brake grease onto here like this, and then we're going to push it into the caliper. Slide your cable for your indicator, put it through, and then we can push the brake pad into the caliper, reattach our cable this way for the sensor. And now we're just going to leave that like that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the other brake pad into the caliper. I put a little bit of lubricant on here too, makes it slide in a little easier. These sometimes are a little difficult to get in, so you know, a little grease on there makes it go a little bit quicker. Okay. Put the brake pad into the position so that it lines up with this hole right here, and you have to push the pad into the hole so it fits in there. Sometimes they pop right in, sometimes they don't. And in this case, it popped right in there fairly easy. The previous job I did was a real difficult job to get it to pop in. It was so tight. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the caliper, rotate it around. We already lubricated the points where the brake pad is going to touch. Lay the caliper in there. Take our two bolts that we previously took out, screw them in, only by hand, remember. Screw both in by hand. And once you've got them screwed in as far as you can by hand, then you can bring a ratchet over and tighten them all up. Make sure you do it by hand first though. Alright, tighten the bottom one. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to reattach that cable to the, I'll show you. Remember the sensor that we disconnected? We're going to reattach this sensor to this portion of the harness right here. So I'm going to need two hands to do it, so let me reattach this. Let's see if I could just hang it right here. Okay. And then to reinstall it back in here, you've got to go in sideways. You have to turn it in sideways like this. Push it up. Then you just push that little lock tab over. Rotate it in, and it snaps right in position. All right, now another thing, you want to make sure that your cable here is reattached onto the caliper where it belongs, which it is. All right, so we have the bolts are tight here on the mounting bracket. Both of the bolts are tight here on the caliper. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to reinstall that anti-rattle clip that was on the front right here, and we'll be all set. All right, what I always do, take the clip, put the clip like this, and then you push the clip in, and you'll hear it snap right in. And that's it. You can do it by hand. You can get in here with a screwdriver. If you need to pry with a screwdriver, you can do that. In this case, we don't need to. It popped right in. All right. Make sure that your anti-rattle clip is popped in here the way it's supposed to, and that these tabs are sitting up on here. And that's it. You're all set. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the other side. We're going to replace the brakes on the other side, and we're going to get this job wrapped up. One last thing, before you drive the car, you have to lower the car back down onto the ground, obviously, and pump the brake pedal several times to push this piston back out so that you have a nice firm brake pedal. All right? So any questions, any comments, any advice you need, drop me a line. Be more than happy to talk to you about it and help you out if I can. All right? Thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one.